I was sorting through the bottom drawer of my old dresser, one quiet afternoon, the kind of chore you put off until the clutter starts feeling heavier than it should, when my hand closed around a crumpled manila envelope I had completely forgotten about. The edges were soft and yellowed, like it had been tucked away and ignored for years. Inside were two faded photographs from an earlier family weekend at the cabin and three torn pages that looked like they had been ripped from a journal. The handwriting on those pages was uneven, almost frantic in places, and reading the first few lines made my stomach tighten in a way I had not expected. If you have ever found something small and ordinary that suddenly pulls the floor out from under a story you thought you had made peace with, then you already know how that moment felt. If any part of what I am about to share sounds familiar, I would really like to hear from you in the comments. Sometimes just knowing someone else has stood in the same place makes the whole thing a little less lonely. The photographs were from 3 summers ago, before everything started to fray in ways I could no longer ignore. One showed all of us on the cabin porch, arms around each other, everyone smiling the way families do when they want the picture to tell a certain story. The other was just my older brother Brandon and my father Thomas, standing by the fire pit, heads close together like they were sharing something important. I had not thought much about that weekend at the time. I had driven up from my place near Chattanooga, same as always, expecting the usual mix of bad coffee, long talks, and the kind of gentle ribbing that comes with being the one who lives a little farther away and works a little differently. What I did not know then was that my older brother had already begun rewriting the rules for who got to be part of the decisions. The torn journal pages were harder to place. They were not in my handwriting, and they were not my mother Patricia's neat script either. The sentences kept circling back to the same idea that some people in the family were too independent for their own good, and that keeping certain conversations private was the only way to protect the version of us everyone else saw. One line read, "She will never understand why we have to do it this way. Better she stays on the outside of it." I folded the pages back into the envelope and set it on my bed, but the words stayed with me for the rest of the day. They made the memory of that last gathering at the cabin feel even more unsteady than it already had. I had almost skipped the trip this time. The text from my older brother had come late, just 4 days before everyone was supposed to arrive, and it had been vague in a way that felt deliberate. "Cabin weekend is on. Lily is excited to see you. Don't be late." No mention of what we were actually doing there, no list of who else was coming, no question about whether the drive still worked for me. I had told myself it was probably nothing. Brandon had always been the one who organized these things, the one who kept the cabin running and made sure the tradition stayed intact. That was the story we all told ourselves. But when I pulled up the long gravel drive and saw his truck already parked beside my father's, something in my chest went tight. The cabin itself looked the same as always, dark logs, wide porch, the old swing that creaked in the wind, but the air around it felt different. My sister-in-law Eleanor met me at the door with a quick hug and a tired smile. She whispered that Lily had been asking about me all week. I tried to let that warm me, but the look in Eleanor's eyes told me she had already sensed the tension building. Dinner that first night started out almost normal. My father sat at the head of the long wooden table, like he always did. My mother Patricia beside him, Brandon at the other end, with Elena and Lily between us. The food was the usual cabin spread: chili cornbread, too much pie, and for a little while the conversation stayed on safe ground. Lily talked about a science project she was excited about at school. I asked her questions and watched her face light up the way it always did when someone actually listened. Then my older brother set his fork down and cleared his throat in that way he does when he has already decided how the rest of the evening is going to go. "We need to talk about Lily's plans after this school year," he said, looking mostly at my father. "She's 16 now. It is time she started thinking about how she can help out around here instead of running off to some expensive school that none of us can really afford." The table went quiet in that sudden heavy way that happens when someone drops a weight no one was ready for. Lily's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Eleanor's hand tightened around her glass. I felt every eye shift toward me, even though I had not said a word yet. I kept my voice even. "Lily has talked about wanting to apply to a few colleges with strong science programs. She has the grades for it. If money is the concern, there are scholarships and other ways to make it work." My older brother gave a short laugh that did not reach his eyes. "That is easy for you to say, Lauren. You are not the one who has been here handling everything while you live your own life 2 hours away. Some of us have to think about what is practical for the whole family. My father nodded slowly, the same way he had nodded at 100 other moments when my older brother spoke first. Your brother has been carrying a lot of the load on this, Lauren. Maybe it is time you let him lead on what happens with Lily. He knows what the family can manage. The words landed like a door closing. I had not been part of any conversation about Lily's future before that moment. No one had asked what I thought or what Lily wanted or whether I had already been helping her look at applications in the quiet way I always tried to do. The decision had already been framed as something my older brother and my father had worked out between them. I was only being told the result. Lily kept her eyes on her plate. Elena looked like she wanted to say something but stayed silent. My mother, Patricia, stirred her chili without looking up. The only sound for a long moment was the wind pushing against the cabin windows. I took a slow breath and tried again. I'm not trying to take over anything. I just want to make sure Lily has a real choice in this. If she wants to go to college, we should be helping her figure out how, not telling her it is off the table before she even tries. My older brother leaned back in his chair, the picture of calm, while the rest of the table felt like it was tilting. That is the problem with you, Lauren. You show up for one weekend a year and suddenly you think you get to rewrite how we do things. You have no idea what it takes to keep this family running. You have been on the outside of it for years. Maybe that is where you belong. The sentence hung there, sharp and final. My father did not correct him. He just reached for the cornbread and passed it like we were still having an ordinary meal. I felt the old, familiar ache start behind my ribs, the one that came every time the story of who we were got told in a way that left me out of it. I had spent so long telling myself that the distance was my choice, that I was the one who had stepped back to build a life that fit me. Sitting at that table listening to my older brother speak for the whole family while my father nodded along, I realized the distance had never been entirely mine to choose. It had been built one quiet exclusion at a time, one we decided without you after another, until the version of the family that existed in everyone else's mind no longer had a real place for me in it. Lily finally looked up, her eyes glassy. She did not say anything, but the look she gave me was the same one I had seen on her face at other gatherings when the adults started talking like she was not in the room. I wanted to reach across the table and tell her that her dreams were not too big or too expensive or too inconvenient. Instead, I stayed quiet the way I had trained myself to do when the room felt like it was already decided against me. The rest of the meal passed in fragments. Someone changed the subject to the weather. Someone else asked about the leaky faucet in the upstairs bathroom. No one brought up Lily's future again, but the decision had already been made in the space between my older brother's words and my father's silence. I helped clear the plates because that was what you did at the cabin even when your hands were shaking and your throat felt tight. Elena caught my eye once in the kitchen and gave a small helpless shrug that said she had seen this pattern before and did not know how to break it either. Later that night, after everyone had gone to their rooms, I stood on the porch with a blanket around my shoulders and watched the dark line of trees. The journal pages from the envelope were still in my bag inside. I had not shown them to anyone yet. Part of me was afraid that if I did, my older brother would find a way to make even those words into proof that I was the problem. The wind moved through the pines with a low, restless sound. Somewhere down the gravel road, a porch light flicked on at the neighbor's cabin and then off again. I told myself I would stay one more day for Lily's sake, and then I would go home and figure out what any of this meant for the version of family I had been trying to keep alive in my head. I did not know yet that the next morning would bring the first real crack in the story my older brother had been telling everyone, including himself. The next morning, the cabin felt smaller, the walls holding on to the words from dinner like they had soaked into the logs. I woke before anyone else and found my sister-in-law Elena already in the kitchen, her hands wrapped around a mug of coffee that had gone cold. She looked up when I came in and gave a small shrug that said more than any greeting could. We stood there without speaking for a minute, both of us listening to the low creak of the old floorboards as the rest of the house started to stir. My older brother came in first, followed by my father. They moved like they had already finished a conversation somewhere out of sight. My older brother poured himself coffee and started talking again about Lily's future as if the night before had never happened. He said the family needed to be realistic about money and about keeping everyone close. My father nodded along, adding that some paths were better for the whole group, even if they felt hard at first. I set my own mug down, harder than I meant to. The sound made everyone look at me. When did the two of you decide this was a family decision, without asking Lily or anyone else who might have a different view? I asked. My voice stayed level, but the question itself felt like it cracked something open. My older brother gave that same short laugh from the night before. There it is. You show up, ask one question, and suddenly we are the ones who have to defend ourselves. You have not been part of the day to day here, Lauren. You do not know what it costs to keep things running. My father cleared his throat in the way he did when he wanted to sound reasonable. Your brother has been the one handling most of the family matters these last few years. It makes sense that he would have a clearer picture of what we can manage. The words landed the same way they had at dinner, but this time they felt heavier because they came in daylight with everyone watching. Lily stood in the doorway to the living room, still in her pajamas, her arms crossed tight over her chest. My sister-in-law, Eleanor, set her mug down and looked at my older brother like she was trying to decide whether to speak. She stayed quiet. I made the decision right there at the counter. I turned to Lily and asked if she wanted to walk down to the creek with me for a few minutes. She nodded fast like she had been holding her breath. We put on jackets and stepped outside before anyone could turn it into another group discussion. The path to the creek was narrow and familiar, but the air between us felt new. Lily walked with her hands shoved in her pockets. After a little while, she said very quietly that she had been looking at college programs online at night when everyone else was asleep. She liked the idea of studying something with biology or environmental science. She had not told her father because she already knew what he would say. I told her that wanting something for her own life was not selfish. I told her that there were scholarships and work study options and people who could help her figure out the money part if she decided to apply. She looked at me sideways like she was checking whether I actually meant it or whether I was just being the aunt who showed up once a year. I let the silence sit between us instead of filling it with promises I could not control. When we came back to the cabin, the atmosphere had changed again. My cousin Sophia had arrived while we were gone. She was unpacking a small bag in the corner room and gave me a quick, careful hug when I walked past. Sophia had always been the one who watched more than she spoke at these weekends. She asked how the drive had been and whether the cabin felt the same as always. I told her the drive was fine. I did not tell her about the dinner or the walk. My older brother called everyone into the main room a few minutes later. He had the tablet from the kitchen counter in his hand and said he wanted to check the security footage because he thought he had heard something outside late the night before. The cabin had a simple system, mostly cameras on the porch and the driveway for insurance purposes. He pulled up the recording from after everyone had gone to bed. The footage that played was not of an animal or wind. It showed my older brother and my father standing on the porch, voices low but clear enough through the small speaker. My older brother was saying that I would probably push back on whatever plan they made for Lily and that the easiest way to keep things moving was to present everything as already decided by the family. My father nodded and said something about how I had always been the one who made family matters more complicated than they needed to be. The room went quiet in a different way than it had at dinner. No one moved. My older brother reached for the tablet like he was going to turn it off, but the recording kept playing for another few seconds. My father looked at the screen and then at the floor. My sister-in-law Elena put her hand on Lily's shoulder without saying anything. My cousin Sophia stayed very still in her chair, her eyes on my older brother. My older brother tried to laugh again, the sound thinner this time. He said it was just the two of them making sure they were on the same page so no one would be surprised. He said families did that kind of planning all the time. The explanation sat in the air and did not land anywhere solid. Before anyone could answer him, there was a knock at the front door. Mrs. Clara Bennett from the next cabin down the road stood there holding a cordless drill my older brother had lent her a few weeks earlier. She stepped inside for a moment to hand it back and glanced around at all of us standing in that heavy silence. Then she said, almost like she was just making conversation, that she had seen my older brother talking with a real estate agent near the main road the day before. She hoped everything was all right with the cabin and that no one was thinking of selling after all these years of family weekends. The words landed harder than they should have because of the footage we had just watched. My older brother's face tightened for a second before he smoothed it back into the same calm expression he had worn at dinner. He told Mrs. Clara Bennett that they were only exploring options, nothing decided. She gave a polite nod and left, but the room felt different after the door closed behind her. I looked at my father again. He still had not spoken. My older brother was already talking about how real estate conversations were normal and how everyone needed to stop reading so much into every little thing. My niece Lily had moved closer to my sister in law Elena. My cousin Sophia was watching me now, instead of my older brother, her expression unreadable but steady. The journal pages from the envelope in my bag felt heavier than paper should. I had not shown them to anyone yet, but the words on them suddenly made more sense in the light of what we had just seen and heard. The carefully built story about a close family that always decided things together had another visible crack running through it, and this time more than one person had seen it form. I stayed where I was, hands resting on the back of a chair, while the room kept shifting around me. My older brother kept talking. My father kept not correcting him. The morning that had started with the same uneasy quiet was turning sharper and more unsteady with every new piece that surfaced. I did not know yet what I was going to do with any of it, only that the version of the family I had been trying to hold on to was no longer holding together on its own. The silence after Mrs. Clara Bennett left lasted longer than any of us expected. My older brother tried to steer the conversation back to the security footage, repeating that it was just planning and that families did this kind of thing all the time. My father stayed quiet, his eyes fixed on the floorboards, like the words on the recording had not come from him. My niece Lily had moved even closer to my sister-in-law Elena, both of them watching the room, the way people watch a storm that has not quite passed. My cousin Sophia had not moved from her chair. She was still looking at me. I reached into my bag and pulled out the yellowed envelope I had found in my drawer days earlier. The torn journal pages were inside along with the old photographs. I set the pages on the table without unfolding them yet. The room shifted again. Everyone recognized the handwriting on the top page even before I spoke. These were in an envelope. I said, keeping my voice steady even though the air felt thinner. They are old, years old. They talk about keeping certain people on the outside so the family can stay united. The same pattern that showed up on that footage last night. My older brother's calm expression cracked for the first time. He stepped closer to the table, one hand reaching toward the pages like he might take them. I did not move my hand away. He stopped. "You are twisting things again," he said, but the words came out faster than usual, less measured. "Those are private family notes. You have no right to bring them here and make a scene." My father finally looked up. His face had gone pale in a way I had not seen before. He opened his mouth, then closed it. The man who had spent years nodding along while my older brother spoke for the family now had nothing to add. My cousin Sophia spoke, then her voice quiet but clear enough that everyone heard it. She had not raised her voice in any family discussion I could remember. "I saw the same thing growing up," she said, looking at my older brother and then at my father. "The conversations that happened without Lauren. The decisions that were already made before she arrived. I told myself it was just how things worked, but watching that footage and hearing those pages, it is the same thing. It has always been the same thing." The words landed differently because they came from her. My older brother turned toward her, but the usual easy dismissal did not come. He looked around the room instead and saw that no one was automatically agreeing with him anymore. My sister-in-law Elena had her arm around Lily and was not looking at him. My father sat with his hands clasped so tightly the knuckles had gone white. The carefully built story about a close family that decided everything together had lost its hold in the space of one morning. I unfolded one of the journal pages and read a single line out loud, the one that had stayed with me since the draw. "She will never understand why we have to do it this way. Better she stays on the outside of it." I set the page back down. That is what this family has been protecting. Not unity, just the version where I do not get a real voice and everyone else pretends that is normal. The argument that followed was messy and overlapping in the way arguments become when too many people have been holding things in for too long. My older brother raised his voice, listing every time I had missed a gathering or lived too far away or asked questions instead of accepting the plan. My father tried to defend him at first, saying the family had to make hard choices and that someone had to lead. My sister-in-law Elena finally spoke, her voice shaking but steady, telling them both that Lily deserved to at least apply to schools before anyone decided for her. Lily stayed quiet but did not look away anymore. My cousin Sophia repeated once that she had seen the pattern too, and that pretending otherwise had not protected anyone. I did not raise my voice. I waited until the voices overlapped, and then I said the thing I had come to the cabin, still hoping I would not have to say. I am done being the person you plan around instead of with. I will not come back to these weekends if the decisions are already made before I arrive. I will not pretend the story you tell about this family is the one I have lived. If Lily wants help figuring out her applications or scholarships or anything else she can call me, that offer stands whether the rest of you agree with it or not. The room went quiet again, but it was a different quiet. My older brother looked at me like he was seeing someone he had not expected to be there. My father looked older than he had the day before. My sister-in-law Eleanor gave me a small nod that said more than words. My niece Lily's shoulders had relaxed a fraction. My cousin Sophia met my eyes and gave the smallest smile I had ever seen from her in a room full of family. I stayed long enough to help clean up after lunch and to say a private goodbye to Lily on the porch. She asked if I really meant what I said about the applications. I told her I did and that she could text or call anytime, no explanations needed. She hugged me tighter than she had in years. Then I drove back down the mountain road with the envelope on the seat beside me. The annual gatherings at the cabin did not disappear for everyone else. My older brother still organized them. My father still went, but I was not there the next year or the year after that. The shared routine of those weekends, the one I had tried to keep alive even when it cost me pieces of myself, was gone. I felt the loss in quiet ways. No more planning the drive, no more wondering what version of the family story I would be asked to accept this time. No more carrying the hope that maybe this gathering would be different. That loss was real and it stayed. What I gained was quieter and harder to name at first. I stopped waiting for my older brother or my father to see the pattern they had built. I stopped trying to fit myself back into a story that had never really made room for me. The journal pages stayed in a drawer in my own home now, not forgotten, but not hidden either. Sometimes I looked at them and felt the old ache. More often, I looked at them and felt something closer to clarity. The myth of the perfect unified family had never been mine to carry. Letting it go did not erase the good memories, but it stopped requiring me to ignore the ones that had always hurt. Lily applied to 3 schools the following fall. She got into 2. My sister-in-law Eleanor called me once late at night to say thank you for the list of scholarship sites I had sent. She did not ask me to come back to the cabin. I did not offer. My cousin Sophia sent a short message after the next gathering saying the conversation about Lily had continued without me there and that some things had shifted even if slowly. She did not push for me to return. I thanked her and left it at that. My older brother lost something he had not realized he was holding. The automatic agreement in the room, the sense that he could shape the family story and everyone else would nod along, did not come back the same way after that morning. My father still sided with him in the conversations I heard about secondhand, but the certainty was thinner. The quiet loss of influence showed up in smaller ways, fewer people asking him what the plan should be, more pauses before decisions were announced as final. I did not get the version of family I had once wanted. I got something else instead. I got the freedom to stop performing the role they had written for me. I got the ability to show up for Lily and Elena on my own terms without pretending the larger story had ever included me fully. I got nights where I could look at the envelope in the drawer and feel the weight of it without letting it pull me back into the old hope. The peace that came with that was not loud or triumphant, it was steady, it was mine. I still think about the cabin sometimes, especially in the fall when the leaves in the mountains turn. I do not miss the arguments or the careful silences or the way my older brother could make an entire room agree that I was the difficult one. I miss the version of the weekends that existed before I understood how much of the story had been shaped without me. That version was never completely real, but the loss of even the idea of it still sits with me some evenings. I have learned to let it sit without trying to fix it or explain it away. Boundaries do not always bring the people you love closer. Sometimes they make the distance permanent. What they do bring is the chance to stop erasing yourself in order to keep a version of family alive that was never built to hold you. Real family, the kind that does not require you to disappear, pieces of yourself, does not ask you to stay on the outside of your own life. I stopped waiting for that to change and started building the life that did not need their agreement to exist. Thank you for staying with me through all of this. If this story resonated with you, comment strength below if you felt this. I read what you share and it matters more than I can say.